wanted to talk about the Aldous Bill. I wondered if you could give us some of the background, how you came to work with Peter Aldous MP and what the process was to achieve that first reading in early January.
Okay, so I've actually known Peter for quite a few years now. I first met him, it would have been 2013-14, when I worked at Chatham House at an energy efficiency event, which is very key to Peter. He's very big on his energy efficiency, his green initiatives. He's a coastal constituency Waveney, so he's been very big on your kind of offshore wind and all these kind of things. He chairs the APPG on energy storage, so he's very interested in those kind of things. And Peter's background is actually as a chartered surveyor. So when I joined BESA and taking up the mantle of the kind of retentions issue, I thought that he would be a good person to reconnect with, to talk to about this. Lots of BESA and DCA members in Waveney as well, so went to him and had the conversation about how to get the issue moving, how to get a bit more action on retentions, and actually the topic of a private members bill came up, and Peter spoke to his whip, who very quickly progressed it along the line to the next whip and to the Treasury, and they came back quickly and said, yeah, sure, under the 10-minute rule, you can feel free to introduce a bill to this effect. We came back to BESA and decided, what do we want from this bill? What's the best thing to push forward? I've been working very closely with Peter's office and with Peter himself on the wording of the bill, what it's actually trying to achieve, the change it wants to actually initiate. And it was basically, Peter's very, very good at getting things actually moving. Parliament can be quite a slow place. It's very keen on its traditions and its procedures, which there's nothing wrong with, but it can mean that things take quite a while. But Peter's very good at getting things through the system, and the 9th of January was basically the soonest that we were able to get it in. Worked very nicely as the second day that MPs all came back from Christmas as well.
Excellent, that's very interesting. I understand that it's hoped there'll be a second reading at the end of April, the 27th. What will be the next steps if that happens?
So the second reading on the 27th is happening, and we're very pleased that that is happening. It passed unopposed at the first reading, which generally is the case with a private members bill. But the second reading, what is most important to make sure that happens is ensuring it gets parliamentary time. In the wake of Carillion, I think it probably is going to get that time. Onwards from that, there are 10, 11 stages that a bill has to go through in Parliament anyway. So you have your first reading in the Commons, second reading in the Commons, committee stage in the Commons. What is it then? Then it's your report stage in the Commons, then it's the third reading in the Commons, then it goes up to the Lords for the first reading in the Lords, the second reading in the Lords, committee stage in the Lords, report stage in the Lords, third reading in the Lords, then it is passed back to the Commons, and a joint committee of the Commons and the Lords do what is called the consideration stage. It's also known as the ping pong stage, where they basically throw it back and forth to each other, making the final little amendments and just double checking everything, crossing T's and dotting I's. So there is a lot still to come. It is very much the first hurdle of a very, very long race that has been passed. But after the second reading, that's where you've got the committee stage. So that's where it will be scrutinised line by line. Should this be a comma or a full stop? Should that be an and or a then? Very, very fine tooth comb kind of scrutiny of the bill. So that would be the next stage, which we're already preparing for.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that very detailed description of how it works. That's marvellous. And you just said it's a very long process. Do you have any anticipation of when this might happen, or perhaps, I know that's a difficult question.
Some pieces of legislation can pass in a matter of days. We look at some of the Terrorism Acts in 2007, and other things that are considered a matter of absolute urgency. It can pass in a few days. At the same time, bills can take years to pass. Sometimes when you're struggling for parliamentary time, you will put it a bit further out so that you can find the time, basically. The average for a bill to pass is about a year, and that is essentially what this bill would get if it progresses through all the stages. It would probably take about a year. Now that's obviously how long a piece of string is. We could have anything else come in the meantime. We could have a number of different things. To be honest, since World War II, only 62 10-minute rule bills have become legislation. That's not in any way taking away from the urgency of this bill, but it is just a note that actually this is one stream in which we are trying to get the government's change retentions. And at the end of the day, Brexit legislation is what's taking most of Parliament's time at the moment. And that is potentially a way that is going to help the bill, because the government need to be seen to be doing more than just Brexit. But actually that's currently what the real issue is. So if anything comes of this, it will take about a year.
Okay, thank you for that. And my final question, I guess, is related to something you mentioned earlier. Do you feel that in spite of the major problems it's obviously caused the industry, the Carillion liquidation may give some extra momentum to the proposal to change our retentions? Am I managed?
Yes, definitely. Momentum, yes, but more so urgency. We have clearly seen something has to be done to change this system. It's no longer a question of, is it bad for the industry? What is the impact? Does it damage productivity? Does it take money out of the supply chain? Because actually in the last 2 weeks we've seen that. In the last 3 years, government's own figures show that 700 million was lost throughout the supply chain due to upstream insolvencies. To be honest, that figure may as well double in the last week. But we don't know the full impact of what that's going to be. So actually it may even be more than double. In the last 3 years, we're talking 20 million a month, 4.5 million a week, £900,000 a day that has been lost through the supply chain. And all that this Carillion collapse has shown is that there are, you can have consultation after consultation, you can have discussion after discussion, you can have voluntary solutions. What you need is a legislative solution, because you cannot always trust people, businesses, corporations to do what is in the best interest of their community or of their industry, whereas legislation will do that.
Indeed. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you.